Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy D-Man for Life, aka D-Mizzle for Rizzle, and I'm coming to you with a new gaming order and free play mode. Not really any news, but more of a rant. And this rant has been building up inside of me for quite a long time, so I thought it would be a perfect time to get it off my chest. So I'm going to pose the question that's been on my mind for a while. What happened to games simply being fun? And what I mean by this is that a game as of late can no longer be simply good or okay or very good or average. It either sucks or it's the world's greatest game ever. There's no in between anymore. And I've seen this happen gradually. And let me give you some background here where I'm coming from. I literally grew up in the era of video games. And what I mean by this is I grew up when video games were nothing. Like my very first console was an Atari 2600, and I've grown up to see when gaming was nothing to where it's become now as a legitimate form of entertainment that is accepted by a lot of people. And what I think causes this is the internet, plain and simple, because the internet over the time has become this huge echo chamber of fanboys. And I'm talking about Microsoft fanboys, Sony fanboys, Nintendo fanboys, Capcom fanboys, EA Sports fanboys, Rockstar Game fanboys, whatever company you support that you're die hard and will go all out for type of fanboy. And a problem is that games can no longer be fun. Every game has to have the latest graphics engine or some new custom graphics engine. Every game has to have the most lifelike movement. Every game has to have the most realistic textures. Every game has to be this deep, profound, life altering experience. And somewhere along the line, fun simply just got lost for whatever reason. A game has to have 60 frames per second. A game has to run at 1080p. A game has to be the highest resolution of the highest resolution in order for it to even register on a lot of people's radars these days. And it's just sickening. Like, you see this play out, especially nowadays with Microsoft's Xbox One and Sony's PlayStation 4. Like, Microsoft made an admitted mistake by committing to underpowered hardware where it can't do 1080p 60 frames per second all the time. And Sony, even though they can do 1080p, not all the games are at 60 frames per second 100% of the time. Some are, some aren't. And I've seen people like, "Oh, I don't want the game. It's on an I don't want an Xbox One. It's underpowered. It can only do 900p versus 1080p for a Sony PlayStation 4." I'm like, really, dude? Come on, man. Can you honestly sit here and tell me that you can tell the difference between an image that is 900p versus 1080p? Because I know I can't, and I know most experts can't, unless you have like some eagle eye 25 vision where you can see like the smallest pixel on an HD monitor. I'm guaranteeing you that most of the people who will listen to this can't either. And they may say, "Oh, you're just a Microsoft fanboy and you hate Sony." And that's not the case. I have an Xbox One. I have every intention of getting a PlayStation 4 when Sony comes out with something I want to get, more than one game, because that's pretty much where I stand with the PlayStation 4 right now, is that only one game is coming out that I truly want, and that's Guilty Gear XRD. And I'm not getting a PlayStation 4 because it can do 1080p 60 frames per second. the reason why I have a Microsoft Xbox One is because a lot of my friends on the Xbox 360 have an Xbox One, so we play games together. I didn't have a lot of friends on PlayStation 3 that played the games that I had on PlayStation 3 on PSN, so getting a PlayStation 4 is not a huge priority for me right now. And I think that separates me from a lot of people out there is because I'm not looking at tech specs as a part of my experience. I'm looking at the fun factor. Can I play this with my friends? How will I enjoy the games that I do have an interest in? That's my that's my barometer, so to speak, for how I go about purchasing consoles and purchasing games altogether. I don't pay attention to the mass reviews. I don't care if it's 900p or 1080p or 60 frames per second. All I want the game to do is be fun. And a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're just you're just jaded and cynical," and that may be, but I think I'm right about this because a lot of people out there aren't having fun anymore. They're just too caught up in the hype of games. And prime examples of this are Destiny, Titanfall, and Watch Dogs. Like, these were the three most hyped games of 2014 for Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and you have a lot of people saying that, oh, these games suck. And I have all three of those games, and I have to say, they do not suck. They are very fun games. And I'll admit that they didn't live up to the quote unquote hype that surrounded them upon coming out, but they more than delivered in the fun factor for me. I had a tremendous, well, I am having a tremendous time with all three of those games. And I think that's all that matters in the end. Are you having fun with the game? And if you're one of those people to where you're not having fun with the game because it doesn't have the greatest graphics engine, it's not running at a certain frame rate, and it's not running at a certain resolution, then I feel sorry for you because you've truly forgotten what gaming is supposed to be about. You're supposed to have fun with this stuff. You're not supposed to be wrapped up in the technical aspects of the video game. And I think that's where what also hurts and stifles creativity for video games as well, because even though the internet is an echo chamber, it's a very large echo chamber, and the developers do pay attention to the negativity. And they see this, and it stifles their creativity because they're like, man, I want to put out this great idea that I have for a game, but I'm worried that if it doesn't have the latest and greatest graphics engine, or if we don't create a graphics engine that rivals, say, the Unreal Engine 4 or Fox Engine for Metal Gear Solid 5, people are going to take a shit on it. And it stifles their creativity because they go to the tried and true rather than what they really want to do. And quite honestly, I'm tired of seeing 50 million first person shooters and 50 million GTA clones. Even though Watch Dogs was a very good game, it was just a take on Grand Theft Auto with hacking elements, and I enjoyed it, but it could have been so much better had they gone with straight hacking elements instead of gunplay included. But that's another rant altogether. But getting back to stifling creativity, I think that all this negativity about frame rates and resolutions and graphics engines stifles the creativity because you truly miss out on a lot of good games. And it's pushing me away from the AAA title rated game because you see the same stuff regurgitated over and over and over again. Like, you see the same sports games, you see the same action games. And I think I may start heading into the indie gaming realm because you see the creativity there. These are the people, the developers that aren't wrapped up in the echo chamber. They're not paying attention to the internet fanboys, because these guys don't have the luxury of having the latest and greatest graphics engine. They don't have the luxury of, okay, we want to produce this game to run at 1080p, 60 frames per second. They their sole motivation is to make a good game from the heart. And I think that's where a lot of these big time developers have lost the passion, so to speak, because seriously, the last original series that I played was Mass Effect and Assassin's Creed back on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 era of games. So this is the end of my rant for now. I'm going to call it part one and leave it here. And I'm going to do a part two eventually. So be on the lookout for that. This is your man, D Man for Life, aka D Mizzle Frizzle, coming at you with a new gaming order and free play mode rant. Peace out, y'all.